Welcome. On behalf of myself and my co-chair, Jim Sidor, welcome to the first of what we hope will be many meetings of the Metro North Long Island Committee, soon to be called the Commuter Rail Committee. As Jim and I have talked about many times, there's lots of things that the two commuter railroads have been doing together for many years. Now we'll have more of an opportunity to actually show people what the two commuter railroads have been doing together for many years by bringing the two committees together under one committee to look at commuter rail operations for the MTA. So I think it's something that is long overdue, and we look forward to the ability to compare the railroads, not from a comparison standpoint, but from an operational standpoint, to take the best practices of one, use it in the other aspect so that all of our commuters can get the benefit of what's the best from the commuter rail system. Jim, do you want to add anything to that?
You've pretty much said it all. I think that we at Metro North, let's move forward. It's
Good.
a great opportunity.
Excellent. Let's start with the agenda then for April 26th. Are there any public speakers? No public speakers. Okay. We have the approval of minutes of March 22nd. We have two sets of minutes. For the last time, we have two sets of minutes. Any have to be two sets of minutes? Oh, we're just going to have to change the statute, that's all. We've done that before. Any objections or suggestions on the minutes? All in favor? Okay, then let's go to Long Island Railroad, status of operations. Helena.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. We're also delighted to have the opportunity to combine our meetings with Metro North, a unique opportunity for everyone to really understand how much work the two railroads do together to ensure consistent delivery of rail service. We're going to start with our status of operations report, but I just wanted to take one moment and highlight what was really tremendous response by two very dedicated and professional employees at Long Island Railroad. On March 13th, there was a very severe storm. It was a nor'easter that had been really underreported by weather services in terms of the impact on Long Island and what was coming in terms of high winds. We had two tower operators, Dennis Greco and Paris Renwick. They were on duty at a very important tower in Hicksville. And there were several loud explosions that occurred at the tower location. A lightning strike and high winds had downed a large tree that fell on electrical wires, and that knocked out a Long Island Railroad transformer. So LIPA wires came down, they hit a Long Island Railroad transformer. Both Mr. Greco and Mr. Renwick notified supervisors, and despite a smoke condition that began to occur, they remained in the tower until all 11 oncoming passenger trains were safely stopped, 10 of them at stations so that customers were not stranded between stations. One, they were able to move to another secure location and in a position where it could get back to a station. And I just want to point out that it's that type of professionalism that we really count on by our employees, especially during these dramatic storm-type events. And we've certainly had enough of them as the winter closed out. Divide supervisor Robert Siciliano, he was off duty at the time. He immediately responded to the scene and really commended the work of the two employees. So with that, I'm going to turn to Ray Kenny for our operations report.
Good morning, everyone, and the operations report starts on page number 15 of our meeting book. And I'll be reporting on the on-time performance for March. The overall on-time performance was 92.38%, with the AM peak finishing at 92.45%, the PM at 92.33%, and the off-peak ending at 92.37%. Reporting on year-to-date on-time performance as of March 31st, the overall was 94.32%, the AM at 92.26%, the PM at 93.79%, and the off-peak ending at 94.84%. During the month of March, we had 9 100% rush hours, 7 in the morning, 2 in the PM, and year-to-date there have been 17 100% rush hours. We met our AMP car availability goal 21 of 23 days during the month of March, and year-to-date we have met this requirement 59 of 61 days. The mean distance between failures is for February. Please note the 1-month lag in reporting. The total fleet was 157,792 miles, which exceeded our goal. And the specific goals for the M7, M3, C3, DE, and total diesel fleet exceeded the goals. Only the DM equipment fell short. In terms of the major events we experienced that affected our performance, severe winds had the greatest adverse effect on train service during March, accounting for 20% of all the delays. And this impacted our on-time performance for the month by 1.6%. Plus, we experienced an additional 53 late trains due to down utility wires during the March 13th storm that Helena just mentioned. And this resulted in a total of 113 canceled trains over that weekend. Most heavily hit was the Huntington-Port Jefferson branch with 99 canceled trains. Plus, on Monday, there was an additional canceled train and 16 late trains. This was all caused by a sudden loss of signal power at Divide Tower in Hicksville, resulting from a LIPA power outage that was first reported at 4:47 p.m. on Saturday, March 13th, and substitute bus service was offered during this disruption of train service. And it should be noted that during the month of March, 10.69 inches of rain fell in our service territory, which is 6.32 inches above normal. And during the March 13th storm, we had 3.86 inches, almost 4 inches, fall within a 24-hour period. And another big storm on March 30th, which dropped 2.45 inches of rain. And during the March 13th storm and other weather events, and during 3 train pedestrian incidents affecting our PM peak service, we were assisted by the MTA police in providing both a safe response and helping to mitigate the adverse effects on our customers. In terms of safety, numbers through February, or the end of February, reportable employee accidents decreased 3%. Customer accidents were reduced by 28%. Rail accidents are down 78%, and we have had no FRA reportable incidents to date. And overall fire incidents are down 46%. This concludes my report, and I'm ready for any questions that you may have.
We did want to note also that there's a new standee report on page 25. It's a work in progress. Right now it just reports on information east of Jamaica. We will be working in the next month to assimilate the information for west of Jamaica, put the two together, and then we will be matching the data reporting that Metro North does. And I know this has been a longstanding interest, particularly, Ira, you've mentioned it, so we just wanted to point it out to you. If you have any questions, we're happy to go over it with you. Okay.
Any questions, Jim?
Ray, I noticed in the section on events causing 10 or more delays, there were a couple there that were denominated as possible rules violations. And we on the Metro North Committee have not seen that terminology in any of the reports we have. Could you elaborate a little bit on those? Because there were significant delays as a result.
Yes, we had a couple operating rules violations that happened in the heart of the evening, one in the morning rush hour and one in the evening rush hour, that required us to really stop service to correct the situation and to do as quick an investigation as we could. One occurred at Jamaica. No, operating rules.
Were there any safety issues?
Whenever there's an operating rules violation, there is a potential safety issue. That's why we stop the operation and do a quick investigation.
Anyone else? Yeah. Ira?
I was going to ask about the same, too, and if you could get back to us about what it was. And I mean, it just seems a lot of trains were delayed. I understand the need for an investigation. A rules violation is serious, but it would be good to see if there's what plan there is when such a thing happens to keep service going, and that's the issue there. And thanks. Really do appreciate the standees report. That's something that I know even before before I came on the board, the Long Island Community Council was looking for that, and it gives us a better idea of the effect on the passengers, and how many people are standing out there, or would be standing if every seat was taken.
Okay,
Anyone else? Okay.
we're going to turn to the financial and ridership report. Mark Young.
Good morning. The Long Island Railroad Finance Report begins on page 34, and the ridership report begins on page 48. As many of the members of the Long Island Committee know, I generally like to start with the ridership report first and then roll into the budget discussion. The printed numbers and ridership on page 48 are through the month of February, but given there's a long lead time, I generally like to get the preliminary, more current numbers and report them verbally to the committee. So with that in mind, for the month of March, total ridership was down 2.3% on the Long Island Railroad. It was down 4% for commutation, which obviously relates to the fact that there are approximately 82,000 less jobs in the New York City area when compared to the same month in 2009. We also saw that there were about 3,700 less commuters on a daily basis than we had in March of 2009. That having been said, the month of March, even though it was down 4% for commutation, was our best month so far this year. Non-commutation was actually up during the month of March compared to March of 2009 by 7%. A variety of factors. Possibly there were two holidays during the middle of the month that fell this year in the same month. In the prior year they were not, which may have driven up the non-commutation ridership. Where does that put us year to date? Year to date, Long Island Railroad ridership total is down 3.4% when compared through March of 2009. Commutation is down 5%, and non-commutation is down 0.7%. All that having been said, when we built our budget, we did assume that there would be a drop in ridership. So, in fact, we had built into the budget a drop of 1.5% in ridership. So when we compare to the budget, despite those year-to-year numbers, we are, quote, only down 1% versus budget. Moving on to the financial report. Total revenue through the month of March, we've collected $103 million, which is 1.7% better than budget. I just discussed there was a decline in fare box revenue. However, that was offset by additional revenue on the capital side, and that was basically due to timing of capital projects. Expenditures, year to date, the Long Island Railroad has spent $271 million, which is favorable to budget by $17 million. On the labor side, we're favorable underspending compared to budget by $7 million. That's primarily related to lower than anticipated health and welfare and fringe benefits costs. However, there's a slight surplus in straight-time payroll due to vacancies that exist in the department, in the agency. And in addition, we're basically pretty much right on budget for overtime year to date. And that's significant because our budget, in order to hit that budget, we had to reduce our overtime hours worked by 13.5%, which we've achieved through the first 2 months of the year. And overtime dollars spent were down 10.9% compared to February 2009. On the non-labor side, there was a surplus versus budget of about $9 million, but again, most of that is timing related. And early in the year, as you know, it's difficult on the non-payroll stuff to predict expenditures. Where does that all put us? The fare box ratio is 41.8% for the Long Island Railroad, and that's 0.7% better than it had been through the month of January. And that concludes the finance report.
Any questions on finances or ridership issues? Okay.
And with that, we're now going to turn to the capital program report on page 56. And I did want to highlight one report, and we have a handout that we've put at each person's seat because it contains color pictures and they don't reproduce well in the book. And that's on the Atlantic Avenue Viaduct project. And for the, benefit of the new members from Metro North, we wanted to share with you a little bit of the history. The viaduct was constructed around 1902 and contains 199 spans. This is the Atlantic Viaduct from Brooklyn to Jamaica. Phase 1 of the project was budgeted at $93.3 million to rehabilitate 87 spans where the steel was substantially fatigued by age, weather, and use, since it's been in use since 1902. We started span replacement in October 08, and we completed that segment of the project in November 09. This was funded by the FTA and the MTA Capital Program. We then began phase 2, a project budget of $77.3 million to rehabilitate 84 spans, and we've had 24 replaced to date. We do this on weekend work, keeping one track in service. We started steel replacement in December 09 with scheduled completion later this year. And this phase of the project, I am pleased to say, has been funded by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And it has gone extremely well for us. Phase 1 was nominated by the Long Island chapter of the American Society of Civil Engineers for Project of the Year in Transit category. And we were notified on April 14th that we will receive this award, so we're delighted with that. That's been a tremendously outstanding project using our contractors, our supervisory team, and then our own track workers to do the track reconstruction at the end of the span replacement. There's some very dramatic photos in here, and we actually have a time-lapse video that we're going to try to run at Penn Station. We'll send copies of it to you on a DVD. It really is just amazing to see. With regard to other capital projects for the month, we've achieved beneficial use on 2 projects. That's a bridge electrical system replacement for Reynolds Channel Bridge on the Long Beach branch, and that was $900,000 project, and the signal replacement program at locations on the Main Line, Long Beach, Oyster Bay, Port Jeff, and Montauk branches. If you have any questions on the report contained in the materials, I'd be happy to answer them. I also have Kevin Tomlinson here, who is our Chief Program Manager.
Any questions on the capital plan? The viaduct work has been tremendous, and the railroad should be commended for that, especially keeping it in service for all of our Brooklyn customers at the same time. It's not the easiest thing to do that in that regard. Okay. Number 4, information items.
We have 2 information items. One is the final review of 09 operating results, and the second is the 2010 spring-summer construction schedule changes. If there are any questions on the 09 report, we'd be happy to go through them. Mark had, previously gone through with the committee our 09 numbers results.
Any questions on... And the fare box operating ratio for 09 final comes out to be? It's one of my...
About 44.
I think it's about 40.
Yeah, it's about 44, 45%. I can
Okay.
get the
44.
precise number.
Okay.
It was about 44. Okay, and with that, we have one staff summary to inform the Long Island Committee on planned schedule adjustments. I did want to note that we had done a Port Washington branch study. As you know, among the budget-related service cuts due in September is the reduction of midday service on the Port Washington branch. We're going to go from half-hourly to hourly service. So during the temporary track work program that was underway on the branch, where there's a similar service reduction in the midday, we thought it was an opportunity to conduct passenger counts. So on 5 separate occasions for each weekday, Monday through Friday, between March 15th and April 15th, during this temporary service reduction, we did do we did a survey of 9 midday westbound trains and 7 midday eastbound trains. And we're pleased to report that no train exceeded the 75% capacity, so we feel that those service reductions will not have any impact on the number of standees. So while it is inconvenient, and we recognize that, I've gotten tremendous amount of correspondence from our Port Washington customers who are very used to being able to hop on a train every 30 minutes. And they, are really voicing their concern, their objection to the loss of that customer convenience. We will be able to accommodate them on hourly schedules. In addition, the staff summary does report on our other service changes that go in effect in May, including the Belmont track service being canceled except for Belmont Stakes Day. These are all the service reductions that were encompassed in the board's action to reduce service to fill our budget gap in the fiscal crisis that we're in right now. We have a Long Beach branch train that is being canceled in the PM. We have a Port Washington branch train at 4:43 from Penn Station that's being canceled. Babylon branch is being affected, Port Jefferson and Oyster Bay. So we, in addition to those service reductions that are a result of the financial situation we're in, we also have some track changes that are in the schedule as well. So if you have any questions on those, we're happy to address them.
Any questions on either of those two items? Okay.
All right, and that concludes our portion of our presentation at this point. We turn it over to Metro North, and then we'll be back to address capital, the new capital program, as well as our procurement.
Okay. Howard?
Mitch?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Helena, and this would be to Howard as well. Is there a plan to do any extraordinary notification of service changes that are being introduced as a result of the service cuts that have unfortunately had to be adopted, or is this being viewed as something which would be handled in the ordinary?
No, Jim, we would do tremendous customer outreach because despite all of the, ink that the MTA has gotten about the service reduction package, people will show up and look for their specific train and not understand that that was one that was taken out of the schedule. So we'll be notifying customers by branch line. We'll be using the website. We'll be using specific notices of service changes and media outreach as well, seat drops, all the mechanisms that we can to get the information out to the customer so they're not caught by surprise when the schedule changes.
Yeah. Jim, we will be doing something similar. We will identify on the trains where that will be consolidated or eliminated. We'll be identifying the customers as well, so people will be aware of what these changes are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Howard?
Thank you, Mitch. Let me just start by echoing what Helena said, what you said, Jim said on just we welcome the opportunity for our first joint meeting, a bit of a historic moment in MTA history, but it's good to be part of it. I want to highlight 4 matters before we get into our operating report. One is that our Metro North train time went completely live at the end of March, so we now have available to our customers on the web or on PDAs for all train stations, with the exception of a few lightly used stations on the branch lines in Connecticut. You can now get the next train, you get the on-time service, the track, and the next station. So that is now up and running. That's been a major program for us and a major success, and our customers are very, very happy with it. Secondly, we started our second year of our service to Yankee Stadium. We made some changes in it since the previous year. We had some lessons learned. With the budget situation, we eliminated some service. We were able to identify where we could put a little more service in. So we are well underway into year 2 now on the Yankee service. Thirdly, to mention that we also started, we had a program to, Metro-North purchased a parcel up in North White Plains for a satellite campus for both operations and administration. Part of that was to move people out of lease space in Gray Bar Building up to North White Plains. That is, in fact, the first major phase of that was completed last week, and so we're on schedule to moving the people out, and we're losing, I believe it's half a floor or a full floor of Gray Bar at the end of this month? Half a floor. And then more later on as we move people. And finally, just to mention that last Friday I was very pleased to receive an award from the Westchester Adult Rehab Center to Metro-North for our use of developmentally disabled people to clean our facility at North White Plains. A very nice ceremony with the county executive, and it just showed Metro-North's involvement in the community. So that was very positive. If there are any questions on anything, if not, we'll go to Bob Lieblum. We'll do the operating report.
Okay, Bob?
Good morning, everyone. Status of the operation is outlined on page 87 in your agenda book. In March, we operated at 97.8%, which was above our goal of 97.7%. Both the AM and the PM peaks were above goal, as was the off-peak weekday. Off-peak weekend was below goal. That was due mainly to the nor'easter, which hit the area the weekend of the 13th and the 14th. That wound up delaying 120 trains over the course of that weekend. And also the AM, reverse AM peak was slightly below goal due to the startup of the concrete tie job in Connecticut. Of the 31 days in March, we operated below 95% on only 5 days, and 2 of those days we were below 90, and that was the Saturday and Sunday of the nor'easter storm. 406 trains operated late out of a total of 18,311 scheduled trains. And 98.2% of our trains operated with a full consist. On the west of Hudson side, we operated at 96.9% in March, which is above our goal of 96.3%. The Port Jervis line operated at 96.3%, above a goal of 95.2%, and the Pascack Valley operated at 97.3%, above a goal of 97%. There were 54 trains that operated late out of 1,754 on the west of Hudson. Mean distance between failure, the MDBF is outlined on page 93 of the agenda book. In February, the MDBF was 139,626. This is above our goal of 110,000. And that is it. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Any questions on operations for Metro-North? Susan?
I was on the train, west of Hudson train, going north on the 14th. Hats off to everybody. It was an amazing experience to look out and see nothing but water on all sides and about 2 inches of track showing. It was wonderful work.
Yeah, we had quite a few
I know
people
you
out there.
had some late trains, but it was...
That was the water we pumped up from Long Island, just to had to find a place to send it. We figured we'd send it to you. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Next is Kim will do the financial report.
Good morning. February's financial report begins on page 100. I will present to you the overall financial results for year-to-date February, beginning with expenditures and wrapping up with revenues, at which time Bob McClagger will then cover ridership results. Metro-North's February net deficit at $53 million is favorable to the budget by $9 million or 15%. That makes our year-to-date net deficit at $107 million favorable by $19 million and also 15%. Year-to-date, February fare operating ratio is 54.2% and 5.4% favorable to budget, primarily due to lower expenditure spending, although higher fare box revenues does represent 1% of the favorability. Year-to-date, cash subsidies of $44 million is favorable to the budget by the same amount, or 50%. This is due to higher cash receipts, lower disbursements, and the use of available cash. Total non-reimbursable expenditures before non-cash adjustments is $148 million, or 14%, $14 million, and 8% favorable to the budget. I'd like to highlight that through focused efforts to better manage our labor costs, we are 5% favorable to the budget year-to-date. And this is due to the fact that half of those variances are from the combination of vacancy savings and reduced unscheduled overtime spending. And because of this, through recent discussions with MTA, we will look to better manage better manage of our unscheduled overtime, and we will match our spending with our budget target. We will look to reduce unscheduled overtime by an additional $2 million, or 5%. This is above and beyond our 2010 budget targets. And currently, we see that we are on target to achieve those results. Year-to-date, non-labor expenditures is favorable to budget by $14 million, and in general, all of these current savings will be reviewed and monitored as part of our ongoing budget reviews. Other operating revenues is favorable to the budget by 10%. Advertising revenues continues to contribute to these results. In addition to that, GCT net retail revenues representing 40% of other operating revenues is running 6% favorable to the budget. This is a result of ongoing efforts that we have with our retail management vendor to identify opportunities to reduce retail operating costs further and thereby increasing retail operating net revenues. This effort is separate and in addition to the savings that you have heard about through the MTA's top 50 vendor supplier contract renegotiations. So this will be on top of those initiatives and add to our net retail revenues. We also began the first 2 months of 2010 with fare box operating revenues favorable to the budget by 2% due to higher ridership. This represents an improvement compared to last year. At this same time last year, Metro North's fare box operating revenues was 2% below budget. And now I will turn the report over to Bob to cover ridership.
Good morning. The February ridership report for East and West of Hudson and connecting services is in your book starting on page 114. Following Mark Young's lead, I'm just going to highlight a few preliminary numbers for March of 2010. Total, we have East of Hudson ridership for March. We don't have West of Hudson yet. East of Hudson ridership in March increased 0.1%. This is the first positive overall number we've had since November of 2008. So after 15 consecutive months of negative numbers, we had a positive number for March of 10. Commutation ridership was down 1.3%. Non-com ridership in March was up 2.3%. Year-to-date, overall ridership is down 1.4% versus 2009. Commutation is down 2.6%, and overall non-com ridership in 2010 is up 0.5% since 2009. As I said, we don't have West of Hudson yet from Jersey Transit, so we'll be reporting on that next month. Any questions?
Okay.
Next is the capital program. Tim McCarthy.
Good morning. The report begins on page 124 in your book. A couple of highlights. For a coach overhaul program, we've had 86 cars returned so far. That leaves only 18 in the process still, moving towards closure. On the M8s, we still have 6 cars in New Haven. The fourth pilot pair is en route between Baltimore and New Haven. Should arrive either today or tomorrow, we hope. We had a visit at Tarrytown Station. Congresswoman Nita Lowey visited the stimulus project where we're renewing the platforms and the overpasses. It was a good visit, and it went very well. Fordham Station, we awarded a $3.2 million contract to address the doors, windows, and roof, and do some maintenance work on the exterior of the building. And that is all I have. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions on capital? Okay.
Okay, next then, safety report, Mark Campbell.
Good morning. I'll briefly summarize the safety statistics that are in your books beginning on page 128. On the employee side, these are results through February. We had 22 injuries this year compared to 46 last year, a 53% reduction. The lost time and restricted duty injuries adjusted for work hours were down from 2.3 per 200,000 hours to 1.6, a 30% reduction. And the FRA reportable injuries, again adjusted for work hours, were down from 3.0 to 2.0, a 33% decrease. Just to look ahead to year-to-date numbers, we continue to have significant year-over-year declines compared to last year, which, as the Metro North Committee members know, was not a good year for us. So we are bouncing back, and through this morning, the year-over-year reductions are in the range of 30 to 35%, depending on which metric you look at. On the customer side, on page 130, we had 18 injuries through March compared to 30 last year, a 40% decrease. Adjusted for ridership, that results in a 1.6 injuries per million rides this year compared to 2.5, a 36% decrease. And the FRA reportable injuries, there was one so far during that period this year compared to 6 during the same time frame last year. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions on the safety report? Jim?
Just on the employee injuries, it's very good to see that those numbers coming back to where you want them to be, and it also, I think, is a good indication of how we're able to influence the outcomes through extra effort, and I'm sure that that's been the case in your area, and congratulations on doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. And we, as you know, we have a very aggressive program to try to limit injuries and work across the organization to make that happen. I guess the next is our information items.
Yep.
First is the review of the operating results, which are in the book. If anyone had any, we've talked about these at the Metro North Committee. If there are any questions on them.
Any questions on the year-end review for 2009? Okay.
Okay. Then we have two information items with real estate department. One is the sublease at the Dover Plain Station. The other is an agreement on the Piermont branch. I'm pleased that both of these have been brought to fruition. As the Metro North Committee members know, one of our goals has been to dispose of excess, particularly station buildings, get them into reuse for a much more productive use, as well as to save some money and us not having to rebuild them and maintain them. The Dover Plains Station building has been one we've been working on for many years with the real estate department. Very pleased that this lease is going to be going forward. The other is the Piermont branch, and this is a license agreement as well, which we're very pleased to proceed on for a public path on the old Piermont branch right-of-way. So, any questions on those?
Any questions on either of those items? No. No. Okay.
Okay, so then we come to our action item on page 165. And let me take a minute to talk to this particular item. This is a significant, I'm sorry, page 168, I think it is,
Yeah.
a significant action. This is a project that has been a very long time in coming through a lot of work on behalf of a number of people, both within Metro North and MTA. This project's been worked on by MTA Legal, MTA Real Estate, Metro North Business Development, Metro North Legal, Metro North Operations. They've worked as a team for a number of years to bring this project to fruition, and we're very pleased that we're bringing it today. The project itself will, at no cost to the MTA, provide significant improvements both for our customers as well as for our employees and for the MTA police. This new system it is a wireless system, cellular and Wi-Fi services that will be available from a number of different providers. which will now make, from a cell phone standpoint, you'll have cell service from these different providers throughout Grand Central as well as throughout the Park Avenue Tunnel. Today, we have some very limited service, and when things leak in through the grates on Park Avenue, you can or can't hear a cell phone. This will now be continuous service. There will be Wi-Fi service throughout Grand Central Terminal as well. Right now, it's just in the station master's office. So from a customer standpoint, it is a major benefit. In addition, because we negotiate with a consortium, we have these different phone carriers are ready to go. They have all their agreements in place. Once the deal is approved, we go immediately into construction, and we anticipate the whole project being completed within 36 months. From the standpoint of the MTA, what we receive is about $24 million of benefit. This includes a couple of different elements. One of them is the network. They will be building, while they build this telephone network, the consortium will also be building a new radio network that will go throughout all of Grand Central, through all the different lower areas, as well as Park Avenue Tunnel. It will solve a problem we've had where, while we have good radio communication with our trains, obviously, there are parts of Grand Central and the different bowels, et cetera, where our workers have bad radio coverage. You can't hear them. There are issues for the police. There are issues for New York City Fire and Police. They will now have a first-class radio system throughout the terminal and the tunnel. In addition, we will be getting fiber optics, 48 strands of fiber optic cable that will be available at no cost to us, but will be available to both Metro North and the MTA Police. And finally, we'll be getting increased revenues from about $120,000 today to a little bit over $150,000. So from a financial standpoint, the big benefit is the construction of these networks that, if we had to do them alone, would cost us well over $20 million. Basically, that's the project. I want to add, we may, depending on the City of New York, the fire department is looking to join in. We are in the midst of they're in the midst of identifying funding. With them joining in, they will now have much improved access along with the police. So when we look at it, this is something that, while it's taken us a little longer than many of us would like, is a major improvement both on a customer and on a financial and operational side. So this is for your approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this.
Any questions from any of the members of the committee? And I know, Ira, go ahead.
Yeah, this just regarding Penn Station. I know we have a different situation with the different operators, but are we working on something similar, or do we have anything like this?
Well, we're very fortunate in that we own and operate our own fiber optic backbone network at Penn. We have connectivity within the terminal to all of our own Long Island Railroad software applications, and that includes the ticket vending machines and Solari signs. We don't have a radio communication issue with our trains. We had established last year a Wi-Fi network within the refurbished waiting room where customers can access the internet for free. Penn Station does have adequate wireless service coverage by a number of cellular service providers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, within the terminal. Some of them have better service in the tunnel than others, as all of us, I think,
Or some of them have no service in the tunnel, as some of us have experienced.
So that would...
I get good service. I don't.
Yes.
That's why I was asking the question. I couldn't. I thought I was wondering. When Howard was talking about this, I said, well, I'm in Penn Station and I get service, and I was wondering, is it because in the subway you don't? But I was wondering, well.
Yes. We would say that, the current arrangement, with Penn Station owned by Amtrak does meet our needs, but we would continue to work with Amtrak to see if there could be any improvements for the other carriers where tunnel service is not as robust. So we're in pretty good shape.
Some passengers would rather have it that you don't improve cell service.
Yeah.
I was just from a safety
another
perspective
issue.
and in terms of fire department, anyone's communications.
And I know this is being done now at Grand Central in anticipation of all the Long Island Railroad customers who will get there at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand
Absolutely.
that. All of us who will get there at some point. Any other questions on this matter? I think the most important thing, number one, is this is a great opportunity from a safety perspective within Grand Central. It's a great opportunity for customer service, and it saves the MTA a significant amount of money that we would have otherwise had to have done ourselves.
That's right.
To improve it. So I think it's a win-win for all concerned. Motion to approve? Second? Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Good.
So then we're going to move to the capital program, and I think I'm going to go first, and then Helena will follow on
Go ahead.
Long Island.
Yep.
So you've received, I believe, at your desks, the new capital program that was released on Friday. The executive summary was released on Friday, and the MTA will be taking this through the committee process this month. I believe it's through finance and then on to the board on Wednesday. Let me speak for a minute about the Metro North program and highlight a couple of matters. What's changed from the last time we brought this to the board, as well as some of the highlights in the program. So for Metro North, the capital plan is $1.703 billion. The previous approved program is $1.839 billion, so it was a reduction of about $136 million. That was due to the reduction in the assumed amount of federal funding we would receive. And in addition, Metro North and Helena, Long Island has the same circumstance, that the capital program now included PTC, the federally mandated program for positive train control. And so we, for Metro North, had to include another $255 million. So the entire available funding to us was a decline of about $390 million, or about 20% of our plan, no longer was available for other projects. So the way we accommodated that was, well, first we included, in terms of major changes, the $255 million to PTC. And I do want to point out that that includes west of Hudson cab signaling for the Port Jervis line, which in and of itself will be a major improvement. And it's kind of the underlying basis for the PTC. Secondly is, and I also want to add that both Metro North and the Long Island have been very active in looking both for funding for PTC as well as possibly requesting extensions of time for PTC. Not only is this an unfunded mandate, but we also have a very tight window within which to try to implement this program. In addition, we reduced our rolling stock program by $125 million. That was tied to a review of how we were approaching rolling stock on the New Haven line. We also reduced Harmon Shop by about $125 million. And this is a good story in that we spent some time re-looking at some assumptions, looked at the possibility of using some capacity at the Long Island Railroad, as well as New York City Transit, or some third party, potentially a third party. And basically, we could then downsize the support shop that we had thought we needed, and in fact, we downsized it significantly. We could defer from the program. We were then able to accelerate what we desperately needed, which is some additional facilities for our electric fleet. And overall, we could also save $125 million. And so it's basically a good story of, I think we improved the functionality as well as reduced the budget. And then there were a number of other changes to make up that full $390 million. Overall, the program focuses Metro North on state of good repair and normal replacement. 95% of the program goes in those two categories. There are very few system improvement projects. Those that we have focus on improving customer information, some initial smart card investments that we're working on with the MTA, the Long Island, New York City Transit, and some targeted yard improvements. And finally, I do want to mention one other thing, that because of the funding circumstance, the first 2 years of our program reflect our critical priorities, and so that if the funding is impacted in 12 to 14, it's reduced, we will still get substantial completion of these critical priorities. So it's not as if we'll be halfway done. We will get substantial completion. Just quickly, the other things to highlight in the plan, so I mentioned New Haven Line rolling stock. We were optimistic that this will give us the money to have a new fleet strategy for the New Haven line, bring that fleet up to the level that the Harlem Hudson is today. Harmon Shop, I mentioned already, it'll give us the beginnings of the first phase of the EMU shop, as well as repairs to the existing shop that's now over 100 years old, we'll continue to need to use. We have positive train control. The Port Jervis line calf signal improvement is in there. mentioned the smart cards, customer communications. There we are looking at provision of real-time information at all our train stations, and as part of that, that's tied into also our security network with closed-circuit TVs, so it becomes one project that will have a number of benefits. And then finally, in a different section, MTA has reserved $30 million to continue the Tappan Zee environmental review process, and that's our share of that joint project with NISDOT and with the Thruway. So those are the highlights. I'd be happy to answer any questions on our capital plan.
Any questions on the proposed capital plan regarding Metro North? Okay, this will be voted on, I know, by the board, the Finance Committee later today in that regard. Helena, on Long Island.
Yes, and I want to echo Howard's comments. As you remember that the capital program was submitted last October. It was vetoed by the capital program review board and sent back. That did give Jay the opportunity as the new chair and CEO to take a look at the program, and he asked each of the agencies to refocus their program, absorb the fact that there would be less federal dollars than we had anticipated, and the need for us to fold in, for the commuter rail operations to fold in the positive train control investments required as an unfunded federal mandate. Our focus did remain very much on what were the East Side Access projects that needed to be completed and needed to be identified in this program to support our opening day scenario for East Side Access. So our program was reduced from $2.758 billion to $554 billion. Our swing, including both PTC and the program reduction dollars, was about $450 million. But I am pleased to say that we were able to go through the program, tighten up, refocus, and I think meet the requirements for our 2 years that are funded, 3 years that are unfunded in this 5-year proposed program. Meet the requirements for East Side Access. And again, I just want to highlight, we're very focused on what do we need to do, how do we have to fund them, fund the elements that support the opening day scenario. And while we have, a number of items, that we had to defer, these were the things that were essential. And I'm just going to quickly go through them. We're working on a more, I think, cost-effective and efficient way for doing trash removal at Grand Central, and we're working with Howard and his staff to come up with that solution. We have a Massapequa pocket track that is extremely important for track capacity improvement. We're also doing a Great Neck track extension, a pocket track extension that again gives us capacity, which will be important during the East Side Access opening day scenario. We're working hard on Jamaica capacity improvements. That's about $400 million in our program. That's essential for improving some of the switches at Jamaica, as well as adding a new platform that will service the Brooklyn to Jamaica scoot service that we envision. That will be more frequent service between Jamaica and Brooklyn and allow us to serve 2 main terminals, Penn Station and Grand Central. We have the Colonial Road Highway Bridge replacement. That is a bridge that was actually constructed before 1867 and remains a statutory responsibility of the Long Island Railroad. It can be done in conjunction with the Great Neck pocket track work, and we'll realign the bridge, and that has very good local support, which is important for us. We're working on a Port Washington yard reconfiguration. That would be a 2-track extension that would increase capacity along with that pocket track on the Port Washington branch. We're working on a Mid-Suffolk yard. We funded that at about $80 million. And then new traction power substations in Queens, again to enhance our overall reliability of service for East Side Access. And that totals about $584 million. We have some, important core investments that go beyond East Side Access as well. And we would just point out that the program includes replacement of the Massapequa and Wantagh station platforms, including platform improvements that will be making lighting, canopies, waiting rooms, elevators, and escalators. We have some additional track segments we'll be working on as well under this program, bridge rehabilitations on the main line, Atlantic and Port Washington branches. Again, all important as part of our state of good repair. In terms of new projects, I would like to highlight two issues that we think are very important. One is alternative diesel equipment has been funded at $78 million. Our goal in this project is to procure a new type of diesel equipment to supplement the railroad's existing fleet. Now, we have a diesel fleet. We've had some difficulties with that fleet. It is one of our highest priorities to keep that fleet in a good state of repair and get as much operational durability as we can. But we look at that fleet as the current fleet primarily for our long-haul service into Penn Station. What we would like to do is be able to diversify a little bit and add perhaps a lighter diesel piece of equipment that would provide scoot service, something that we would look at perhaps for Greenport to around Konkoma. There's opportunities perhaps that exist on the Oyster Bay branch, as well as the scoot service from Brooklyn to Jamaica. So that would be one of our primary goals to identify. I'm sorry, not that's not correct. That's not diesel service. Atlantic service. Atlantic is a different opportunity for scoot service, and we're looking at the right equipment for that, but it wouldn't be in this procurement. The other major issue that's a new project is the Speonk to Montauk signalization. This is a project with independent utility that allows us to bring what is currently dark territory into a good state of signalization where we would have a signal logic there that doesn't currently exist. That would enable us to bring PTC requirements as an overlay. Again, in order to meet the requirements of the Rail Safety Act, we do need to bring this area up to signalization. We'll do that as an independent project and then add the PTC overlay to it when we get there. I'm going to echo Howard's comments how important it is for us to get recognition that the time frame for the PTC implementation is too constricted. By having to meet the 2015 deadline, we will miss the opportunity, one, to convince the feds they need to give us more funding, two, to identify better technologies that exist today. If we're forced to move forward with the implementation plans that we did file, both railroads met that requirement, we will be really installing older equipment based on transponders as opposed to the opportunity for new equipment that could be based on wireless technologies. So we're very focused on having, the right time frame in which to comply. Both railroads absolutely understand the necessity of compliance and that this is an opportunity for safer train operations. With regard to projects that were deferred, I am going to identify a couple projects, just so you know, and they were deemed less critical as we went through this evaluation and identified what were the essential critical projects under this refocused capital program with diminished resources available. We've deferred the replacement of work locomotives. We've deferred 1 yard that we need for the Huntington Port Washington branch, and then some station investments. And these were, I do have to say, very difficult, decisions. Kew Gardens especially was one where I had a platform extension that I wanted to focus on. That was deferred. A design for a New Republic station, that's been deferred. I am pleased to say we were able to keep a design in for the double track project, which the Long Island Committee members are familiar with, but we had to defer the actual construction portion that was budgeted for Central Islip to Ronkonkoma. We also, similar to Metro North, have deferred the diesel locomotive shop in favor of a design study that we're going to do. It's funded at just $5 million. We deferred $80 million. We're going to look at the opportunities for better utilization of resources at Metro North. In particular, for the 10 to 15, we're doing a combined 10 to 15 reliability-centered maintenance program for our current diesel equipment. We will be examining the opportunity of getting that equipment up to the Harmon shop and using their very sophisticated hoist equipment, which we do not have at Morris Park, to lift the engine skid and do a replacement. We will in turn look for work that we can do at our facilities that they may be able to send to us. So we have an ongoing dialogue on that, and we'll be bringing more details forward. In terms of, other items that were deferred, we had various normal replacement projects in tracks and line structures, communications and signals that needed to be postponed, and a substation replacement project. So with that, we look forward to, the opportunity to address capital program approval. We know it's going through the process. It'll go to the board this month. With that, there'll be, plenty of discussions with Albany about how essential it is really to move this project forward. The whole capital program, I think, I continue to say how important it is not only for each of the railroads, but for the region in terms of capital investment. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions at all about the Long Island Railroad section of the capital plan? Okay. The only thing I wanted to say was, once again, to emphasize the point that both Howard and Helena made on positive train control. It is incumbent upon our congressional delegation on both sides of the aisle to either get us money, which would be nice, or if they can't get us money, at least a delay in the implementation date from 2015 to 2020. That will allow us to evaluate a wide range of options on the project. It will allow us to get the construction into the next capital plan. It would allow both Long Island and Metro North to do what we consider to be higher priority projects at the moment, including construction of the second track on the Long Island Railroad, and I'm sure Howard has a variety of things that he would do if the money became available. So it is absolutely incumbent upon our congressional delegation to win one for the MTA area and the other commuter railroads around that are implemented the same way. And we call on them to get it done and get it done quickly, because the more time that goes by, the more difficult it is to change direction at a later date. I have met with the delegation on the island. I'm sure my compatriots from Metro North area have met with the delegation from Westchester and the Hudson Valley, and we call upon them again to get it done, because it's absolutely essential to be done. Anything further on capital plan? Ira?
On positive train control, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. The benefit that it would offer is minimal, if at all, and what I understand in cab signaling territory, the belief is it really wouldn't offer us much benefit, but in terms of safety.
I want to say that, I think Howard and I both recognize there is value absolutely in positive train control. We have tremendous cab signaling territory. Howard has actually more than Long Island Railroad, so he'll address those benefits. But, there is no question that there are benefits. We don't want to present to you that the two systems are equal. Positive train control will do one thing cab signaling does not do. If effectively implemented with, highly reliable technology, it will stop a train. And cab signaling does not do that. At 15 miles an hour, a train, there will be signal indications that bring it down to 15 miles an hour, but it will not stop it. For us, it is extremely important that we bring some of our dark territory up to a level of signalization where PTC can work. Howard, any comments?
Yeah, just to add, most of the United States has signal systems that are not cab signal. Most of the cab signal territory is in the Northeast, Metro North Long Island being two of the most cab signal. New Jersey Transit and SEPTA in Philadelphia are in the same situation. So in those places where there's dark territory or there is automatic block signaling like the accident that happened in Los Angeles, positive train control provides a level of protection that is significantly different than when you have a cab signal territory. So as Helena points out, when cab signal territory, it gives you some benefit, but it's an incremental benefit above what we have today. And when you juxtapose that on the very short time frames that make it a very risky technology project, in essence, combined with the lack of funding and the high cost, that's where you get to the issue that Mitch is talking about, which is the relative benefits given the funding circumstance we're in and given what choices we have to make to fund this, because we just don't have the money to do it.
Vinny?
Just as information for the committee, the labor unions on Long Island have a very, very good working relationship with the FRA. We're working hard on some PTC concerns for us all, and we just want everybody to know just to be assured that the unions are offering all their support and will continue to support PTC. On Long Island, we have a very advanced signal system as far as our cab signal setup. It's a safe operation, and the few dark areas certainly can be dealt with one way or another. But we're working hard with the FRA, and we'll provide any support we can.
And I would add, I think that it has been, tremendous that the unions have weighed in and said, there are opportunities to get better technology if we lengthen the time for compliance. So they've joined in, our position, which is, yes, it provides, a level of benefit and safety, but we need more time in which to make those technology choices be effective ones for the level of investment. So we want to thank the direct outreach you've had as well to our elected officials, not just FRA.
Yep. Carl?
Yeah. Have we had any incidences that if we had had positive train control could have been averted?
We have had no significant incidents that have resulted in injuries. We at Long Island Railroad did have an incident about a year and a half ago that I believe positive train control may have assisted with, where a train bumped another train. However, under the current guidelines, Jamaica is probably exempt from positive train control, and the incident occurred at Jamaica. So, it's sort of a, half answer, yes, but probably no if we followed the guidelines and got an exemption. So we stand on our safety record as one that's been, very good.
So our safety record is pretty good, and
Right.
the systems that we have right now are really sufficient enough where that if we ask to be pushed off till 2020, we're not putting anyone really in danger. Can I assume that?
I think that is, a very fair statement. We work hard to ensure that there's a level of safety, that as we went through project implementation, we would remain very conscious of what we need to do to be a safe operation.
Yeah, Carl, I would add in our case, very similar. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of anything that would address incidents like you mentioned. Similarly, where we have our most frequent incidents and this is when people violate a stop signal, that's where PTC would give you the biggest benefit, is typically in Grand Central within that complex, and that will be exempt as well. We've asked for a waiver for that, so that PTC would not affect that. So again, I think we're very careful on safety. It's why we're putting in some more cab signaling in two of our bigger dark territories, both in Connecticut, west of Hudson. We think that's the best way to proceed for safe operation.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move to the MTA Police Report. Welcome the Chief to the meeting.
Thank you, and good morning. As you can see in the book, overall we're up 3 incidents, 69 versus 66 for the year. Long Island Railroad is down 8 incidents, and conversely Metro North is positive 8 incidents, and Staten Island is plus 3. The main increase is due to larcenies in the north end, Initially in Brewster, we had some incidents with catalytic converters being stolen. We made an arrest on that. And then in Portchester, just cars being broken into. We have an individual identified for that. So we should be closing that one out shortly. But overall, we're doing very well. And these numbers are going against last year, where this time last year we were down about 30%. So I'm rather, despite that we're up, I'm pleased that we're holding the line.
Any questions for the chief on the police report? If not, we welcome Mike and MTA Capital Construction to the Commuter Rail Committee for a report on East Side Access.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention that to date we committed 55% of all the budget for the.
Put your microphone.
Okay, I'll just start again. We have to date committed 55% of our budget for the East Side Access, so we are over 50%. That's a milestone for us. In terms of looking forward, the capital budget, our 2010-14 did not change from the last submittal, so we have been kept at the same exact level. Regarding the project, I would like to mention that some of you have visited the cavern with me last week, and some will be this week. And the excavation on the caverns is moving forward, and we are right now, in fact, excavating the lower levels of the tunnels, and with the 2 TBMs working. Within the medicine yard, that is just that is much easier to see than going down 100 feet into the caverns. We have almost completed the reframing of the structural beams that will allow us to bring in fact, the high-speed escalators and elevators from the lower levels into the concourse. Regarding the escalator and elevators, we have actually started the procurement of this package as a separate thing, and because this is going to be the closest that comes to a D-bomb, design, build, operate, maintain. And we are now in the technical evaluation that began in late March, and negotiations are now underway. Regarding the Queens part of the project that is really critical, the tunneling contractor in Queens completed the initial repairs of the slurry wall that would allow us to start excavation. And we have also installed a temporary vehicular access bridge across the open cut to further facilitate excavation and continued demolition. The work in the yard is critical, and we are monitoring carefully and looking for ways to truly move the project forward and maintain and possibly increase the Amtrak's cooperation with us so we can move the project along. The only other thing that I will mention is that there was an agreement reached, an MOU signed between Metro North, DEP, and us that allow us to proceed with the 50th Street street van facilities. With that, actually, I think I'm done.
Any questions for Mike on East Side Access? I know Mark and I were grateful for the tour last week. I never saw more mud in my life than down there. But and as I said to someone, I want to come back when the floor's going in. Then I know we've made lots of progress when they're putting the floor in that regard.
I wanted to compliment Mike on the unbelievable success of the conveyor belt system, which takes all the rubbish out of there. I mean, I haven't seen mining technology updated like that before, but that thing works like a charm. And it was a great idea, and you really deserve a lot of credit for putting that in. It makes almost digging under there seem to be fun for everybody.
It depends on the outlook, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, compared with what we did at Fulton Street, we dig by hand and pick stuff with a bucket. That's a real advance.
Technological improvements.
Right.
Okay, let's move to procurements. Long Island Railroad, starting on page 180, 179, 180. Elena.
There are 5 procurements in this month's package totaling $11.9 million. There is 1 item in the non-competitive section in the amount of $1 million and 4 items in the competitive section for $10.9 million. The item in the non-competitive section is a request for the MTA Board to approve the award of a sole source contract to Norfast in the amount of $975,000. To provide replacement insulated joints, which will be used by Long Island Railroad's engineering department as part of its 2010 State of Good Repair track program. You will note that we are piloting a little bit more the use of this, and will invite Metro North to evaluate our results. May I have a vote on the non-competitive procurement?
Any question on the non-competitive? Motion in favor? All opposed? Okay.
There are 4 items in the competitive section, and they include a request by Long Island Railroad on behalf of itself and Metro North to award a 2-year personal services contract to quality assurance inspections of rail car wheels and axles. That's in an amount of $200,000. I'm just going to briefly identify the 4 procurements and then ask for a vote. The second is a request by Long Island Railroad on behalf of itself and MTA Bus Company, and that is for a total not to exceed $8.2 million for various hazardous and non-hazardous waste removal and disposal services. These are used as on an on-call basis for a 5-year period. The third is a request for MTA Board approval to extend the term of the current Staples Marketing Transit Solutions contract. These are the marketing for transit vouchers to offer employers the opportunity to sign up for employees and give the pre-tax deduction for transit vouchers. The last is a request on behalf of Capital Construction Company to issue a contract modification to Perini Corporation in the amount of $2.4 million for the Herald Structures Part 1 project, in addition to looking at different rail return ducts. May I have a vote on the competitive procurements?
Any questions on any of the competitive procurements? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Metro North?
Okay, thank you. First, just I want to report on the joint procurements, and Helena mentioned the Long Island one that is proceeding. We will have one that's a joint procurement for Whiting Crane, and then New York City Transit is also doing a joint procurement with Lewis Berger for risk assessment across the varying agencies. Metro North is part of that. So specifically for us today, we have 3 procurements. We have 1 non-competitive, I mentioned, which is to Whiting for the OEM for parts for overhead cranes, lifts, and supports. That's a Metro North Sertoa contract. Procurement, and then there are 2 competitive procurements. One is for pest control services at Grand Central with the firm Avalon Exterminating. This is actually a fairly complicated procurement in that it involves both Metro North as well as Jones Lang LaSalle, the tenants, as well as the railroad operations. We've got 1 contract that replaces a host of previous agreements, better services, and the price is slightly cheaper. So we think this was a very good one. And then secondly is a procurement to the firm Arink to design, test, commission, and give us a new PA system. The important thing here, this PA system will work with our existing system as well as the upgraded one I mentioned that we're looking that is tied to the improved customer communications in our next capital plan. So it serves 2 functions, and so I'd ask an approval on those 3 contracts.
Any questions on any of those contracts? All in favor? Aye. Okay. And we have one, do we have one, or did we do that one?
You did it.
We did it, on Long Island Road. So we're done. And we survived. Amazing. We thank everyone for this historic event. Nobody came out too badly. And we've motioned to adjourn. See everyone next month.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. Good.